Hello, guys. Welcome to this little workshop, which I like to do. And today I thought to tell you a little bit about how I'm thinking when I try to go from one stage to another. And I know this one is not easy because sometimes it can mean that life gets in a way, or there are other things that stand in a way. And what got us here or brought us here might not be sufficient to bring us to the next stage. And that's why I prepared a little topic to share with you. And I have presented this similar thing and to a group of individuals in a workshop type of setting. So unfortunately, in your case, that's just a recording. So you will not be able to participate in a group unless you watch this with your friends and maybe you want to get down to do these exercises or some of these things I will challenge you to do. But nevertheless, I hope you will grab a pen and paper and make some notes for yourself. Because again, think about the times we live in, and we live in quite turbulent times, and that's sometimes a bit of a challenge, if you will, when it comes down to, hey, what brought us here will not bring us to the next stage. And my dear friend Deb Gemmell really helped me a lot in my personal life as a coach, and was also first time I hired a coach. So I would encourage you to have mentors, have peers, have trainers. And it doesn't mean that the person that helps you in one area will help you everywhere. That's why you need to find your ways, brainstorming groups, masterminds, etc., to keep going. But if you do it consistently, then you will eventually figure out that things will start to make sense for you, and not because you know just trying to figure things out by yourself, but that's obviously a big part of the equation, that you just put in the work, really. But also, secondly, that you will test this with others and ask how others are doing. Because on my own journey, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm currently writing in that or about that in a book called Positive Leader. And I'm really curious how that shapes up, because I know that there is all of us have personal stories, and that means going from one stage to another requires a set of skills that go beyond just tangible skills. It goes a lot towards perseverance, towards those intangibles, as you would say, are pretty much becoming the tangible skills: the perseverance, determination, goal setting, and also just sheer amount of patience and discipline to really keep going when other people actually don't believe in you. And again, this is a separate topic, and we might touch on it today and perhaps in other sessions. But remember, it's really about you. It's not about other people. It's about how much time you dedicate to yourself and how much time you dedicate to this. Because maybe it's about your job. Maybe you want to go for a promotion. Maybe you want to move to a new country. Perhaps you need to get your team trained up, because what brought them here will not bring them there. It might be Excel, Microsoft proficiency. It might be just generally some interpersonal skills, just that they need to get in front of the customer and be better at engaging them. So again, what brought them here and what brought you here will not bring you to the next stage. That sets a little bit the scene for what you can expect today. So where are you at? I want to really ask you that. So I ask you for getting pen and paper, and that's with a reason, because I know, like you, I'm sometimes very overwhelmed, and there is a lot of things going on in my life, multiple projects. And at the same time, I know I need to be challenging myself with these things, because when I actually let loose of the discipline, when I let loose of looking at my goals, looking at my vision, I really start losing track of why I'm actually here. And then you really quickly fall into this been there, done that, and you wake up every day and you don't feel this sense of, hey, I wanna do something because I really enjoy it. So ask yourself where you're at. I want to tell you a little bit more about myself, and not just for the sake of self promotion, but also just for you to understand that we all have personal stories, and I want you to embrace yours. And then I want to take you from here to the dare model. Then we get into the part of workshop and questions, obviously, questions because this is quite one sided, hurling at you from my side. But try to maybe do this with your team, try to do this with your friends or in a different setting. And then if you want, connect with me. There are different ways. One is probably if you're watching this, most likely, or listening to this somewhere on my podcast or watching it on YouTube or in some community setting. All right. So let's pull up pen and paper. I hope you have that. And I want you to draw down how is your life right now? Or how is your job right now? So let's pick 1 or 3 areas, depending how capable you feel today and how much bandwidth you have and creativity. You can just focus on one area. I on purpose decided to have been focusing broad on this topic and not just telling you, hey, how is your work and or how's your team or how is your organization, because itself, obviously, each of these topics or subtopics can be very detailed and will require a different set of perspective. But what I want you to think now, you could pick a personal area, you could pick a business area, you could pick a financial area, whatever that is, and then ask yourself where you at. And you know if you don't change anything today, where does it take you 1 year, 2 year, 3 years down the road? Will it be same result? And it can be positive. Maybe you're doing something like, let's say, rowing, or you go running every day, or you train to be more sufficient with Excel, as I said before, every day. And will this take you further? What you're already doing, or is on the other side, are there areas which you actually don't do anything with, and you should be? Maybe you should be networking more. You should be surrounded more with positive peer group. So, and the third piece of it is, are you willing to change? You know, I like these two things to ask people. So if this area you're focused at is really good, how could you make it better? And if it's not good, if it's not sufficient, what needs to improve? So again, maybe pause for, I give you maybe here 2 3 minutes, set a timer, pause the video, and then really ask yourself, hey, am I actually getting better, or am I actually a little bit comfortable and I'm not progressing as I supposed to be progressing in my life right now? So I encourage you to pause, and then you can resume to the next section. All right. So ideally, you have paused and you spend 2 to 5 minutes on this, and you are a little bit clear. At least you have some power about where you're at. And why we do these exercises is just like myself. I like reflection. Since I'm a kid, I used to reflect a lot. I tried to do that, not because I thought I would be smarter than anybody else, just because I somehow felt like what Jim Quick says, your knowledge goes from your head to your heart and then to your hands. And I really like this acronym. So basically, you take what it's in your head, you kind of integrate it as a wisdom, and then act on it. And in my earlier life, I was very good at mimicking all the greats, and I was a big advocate of Tony Robbins, and just following in his footsteps just felt so inspirational to me. And as I got older, I realized, hey, I will never be Tony Robbins. I will never be all the greats. I will be me. And here on the picture, as you can see, I happen to be in France in front of the a great Mont Blanc. And it was amazing because I didn't climb up, but I just took a lift. And sometimes it is actually enough to take a lift somewhere instead of doing the hard work. And that leads me also to a little bit my story, and then we gonna go to the next stage. I grew up in Eastern Europe, and it was quite a depressed town, and I'm writing again in this book Positive Leader about this, which I might be mentioning in different sources, different ways and forms. So if you haven't heard about it, please apologies. If you have, and I have mentioned it too many times, please bear with me. But it's been quite an interesting journey for me because I, grew up on a farm. I didn't know anything else than hard work. I needed to, focus every day on feeding the cattle, waking up before dawn, and I thought that would be my life forever. But as I, grew up, I started kind of despising a lot of the work because I didn't like the lifestyle in Eastern Europe. Was the town I grew up with was depressed. There was a lot of bullying going on, and I, was quite scrawny, or weak, if you will. My body structure wasn't that muscly as I would, see myself today through the sheer love and discipline over the years. And I really started dreaming about bigger and better life. And that led me a little bit towards to think, hey, how would it be to live in the West? How would it be to live in, the Netherlands or Germany or Spain? And it was just, those were flickering thoughts. But eventually I got through a little community in touch, by totally by accident, but who knows, with a Dutch community. And I was able to start commuting there since I was, I think, 14, 15 years old. And one thing led to another, and I fell in love with one lady or one girl back then. And soon enough, we were just writing letters, and she was coming to me over, and I was coming to her to the Netherlands. And through this story, I developed eventually the will to, after my studies, just to move completely to the Netherlands and continue my studies there, but also work, because obviously I had to sustain myself financially, which was quite hard because I was coming from a family. We were financially doing quite well, but not, not in a way where my parents would be like, hey, we will finance your stay abroad. So my dad gave me a 50 euro and said, hey, off you go. So I had to hustle and grind. So I learned a lot through this story about myself and my character. And if you backtrack to the start of this conversation, I said, it's not because of self promotion, because you might be thinking, wow, well, cool story that had to be hard. And yes, you're absolutely right. But why I'm saying it, it's just because you have your own story. You have your own story where you maybe struggled and where things didn't make sense for you. And you just started dreaming up a better future, bigger vision. And since then, you moved on and you have maybe scaled those Mont Blancs, Mount Everests, or just move out of your town somewhere in the neighborhood, and you build a great friendship. So you got a great job, you got married, great kids, all of it. And now you're inspiring other people. But after a while, what happens is, most likely just like it happened to me, you hit status quo. You start losing a little bit of the traction, the momentum you have gained throughout your life. You start maybe losing a little bit of the sense of who you are and what brought you to where you were, through sheer will, determination, and really pure action. Again, sheer determination and pure action. Action is really what stands out for high performers, people who actually have the guts every day to wake up and say, I will do something that I don't feel compelled to do, and they do it anyway, compared to other, peers who actually have the same dream but they never actually do it. And it's not because the the former would be a little bit smarter than the latter group, but it's necessary to take a lot of action. So you know all of this, but again, common knowledge is not common practice. And I want us to be here really focused on the common sense, which is practice. So now you're at a stage, and even maybe you say, oh, Mateo, listen, for me, everything is great. My life is running on all cylinders. Again, if we backtrack, if you're doing great, how could you make these three areas, maybe that you wrote about before, finances, life, and business, how could you make them better? Or if you really struggle, maybe just pick one area and say, okay, this area I'm not doing really well. Maybe I'm not so consistent with sports every day, or I'm not so consistent about building the other side of my life, or perhaps I don't take enough time for my family because I somehow always think the business, building my own business or corporate, is the way to go. But long term, I have neglected some key relationships like my family. So maybe that's your area. And so doing the same things, like Einstein says, is the insanity. And expecting a different result is obviously not going to happen, practically. And I butchered the quote a little bit, but you get it. So, we sometimes expect to to arrive somewhere else, but we still take the same action. So today I prepared a little framework for you. So if you look here on the left, you're here and you want to get here to your dream life, to the next stage, to whatever goal you desire. You can see it as you want. And you want to be this man who actually is really again gaining momentum. So life is a lot like in different stages, lived in different stages and different seasons, from spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And when you try to push in the winter, Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. It might be quite hard, but you can really set the foundation for the spring when everybody else is kind of trying to collect, but you're already running on all cylinders because you have done the pre-work in winter. So here is a little framework for you, and I hope this will really resonate with you. So again, if you're here on the left side, on the first stage, I want you to really look at defining your dream life or your next stage or your goal. A, what makes you fulfilled? B, where you want to live? And C, what kind of work you do. Again, these are some pseudo questions, so you might substitute those. Secondly, I want you to break everything down into goals. Action breeds results. So, A, I want you to create a general idea, vision, mission. Try to step higher where from where you now. If you want that promotion, how can you get that promotion? What company you want to work with, what people you want to surround yourself, what boss you want to have, or maybe you want to be your own boss, or you want to hire people, what type of people you want that work for you. Then B, I want you to establish daily habit. How will you be getting to that goal? Maybe look at the goals until it's so ingrained in your heart so that you have to act on it. And C, set up short-term and long-term goals. This is quite clear for you. On the third pillar, if you will, is focusing on what you can control. And why I'm building this in a little pillar type of way, because if you think about a building, it will stand on multiple pillars. If you just define your dream life or next stage and do just the first part and then do all the other six or five, then things will not happen. That's why you need a strong foundation. So if you focus on what you can control, you start focusing on working the skills, new habits, attitudes, redefining your values, friendships, and start networking again because you realize, hey, I need maybe some people in my life. In the fourth pillar is taking consistent action. As I said before, action breeds results. Without action, nothing happens. So apply the way of the turtle, as I call it. A while ago, probably a few years ago, I happened to be at an island called Zanzibar with my spouse Kate, who's a great travel monkey, and with her I learned the beauty of traveling and actually really seeing different cultures and appreciating the little things in life. And we happened to land this little prison island, it's called, and it's a shelter for turtles. And there was this old turtle, 197 years old back then, Caesar. And it was magnificent to touch such creature. So imagine I had this epiphany that imagine if you play your life like that. I know we don't live 200 years yet, but even 100 years for many of us is a long time. And if we play the long game and decide to restart our lives maybe in our 40s, 50s, 60s, it's never too late. So forget the notion of I'm too old, I will never do it. Pay attention to your language. Focus on things you can control, which is the way of the turtle. Do those daily consistent steps and imagine like you're a turtle which is resilient, the Asian turtle, resilient creature which never stops and keeps going. I want you also to check in with yourself daily. So what action, write maybe the checklist for yourself, whatever top 3 things that will move you towards your goal every day, and then focus on the Friday finishers. I borrowed this concept from Brendon Burchard, the high performance coach, and I really like it because it really shows that we need to focus on things that we can control. And when we have the desire to accomplish something and we have a clarity how we're going to get there, things actually will work for us a bit better. So that means also committing every day, being a bit better rather than just hoping that we will get better. That means, doing those tiny steps. And 1% is obviously not much, but it can be enough if you multiply that. The fifth part is really embracing the growth and learning, because naturally what will happen when you actually put yourself out there, you will try new things. You will be more bold. You will go from your comfort zone to the necessary zone, which means you will try to actually shape your thinking, but you will also try to shape your future or get to your goal, start running, start growing, start building the business. And you will try new things because you will know, hey, now it's necessary for me. And you will need to move towards that. It doesn't mean you have to break yourself, because a lot of these things, again, what we're talking about might be short term, but a lot of this might be the long term goal oriented goals. And for that, we need actually stamina. We need to run multiple marathons. And this is what I really believe life is about: running multiple marathons and having the discipline, the agility, and also the stamina to be able to run that. That's why you need to be also open to experimenting with your career, your dreams, the goals, and remember again what I said before: it's never too late to start. Don't beat yourself up. We beat ourselves too hard sometimes, and we forget that things are not always static. You're not a tree, you can move. So make a map. This is a little map, and if you've built your life like this, you can succeed. And then sixth pillar is find the support system. Find a peer group, surround yourself with positive people. If you need, ping me. I'm building different groups as we speak, because I realized, hey, first a little bit selfishly, because I want to be smart. I want to know what's coming. When people say, oh, it's so hard out there in the economy, I'm like, yeah, you're right, but you can do something about it. So if your industry is suffering, maybe you can have such a group, such connections to people that maybe they will introduce you to a potential role somewhere else. And when you are looking for a new role, when you're looking to succeed, you have already done the pre-work. You have the people that will take you, by the hand and say, hey, you got, remember back then, a few years ago, you got our back, and now it's my time to get your back. And we need that. We need to think ahead in today's time. I want you also to accept, obstacles. Many times when I started, if we backtrack to my story in Eastern Europe, I knew hardship, I knew physical work, I knew mental, obstacles. But when I ventured out to the West, as I call it, bumbled out. I was surprised how hard it was. I had to learn new language. I had to register. I had to get a citizenship. I had to get few jobs to sustain and pay my studies. It was super expensive for my level of comfort. I needed to learn to understand the habits. I needed to think ahead, how, what job placements, and all these different things that actually came at me. And although language wasn't a problem, just the sheer of studying, the sheer of being tired after work and still have to study was hard. And at some point I just knew that it is like that, and I didn't try to fight it, negotiate it with it, or talk to it and say, hey, oh, it's so hard. I know many people do it and it helps them. There is a lot of science that shows that complaining can be really a way for people to get over things, but I don't really believe in this. I just believe that you have to find the things that excite you, and some part of our life can be a bit more dull and boring just because we need those skills to get somewhere else. But if you can change some things, you can always be smart. And the final thing is really apply grit, resilience, and push forward. I know this is again might fall on deaf ears because everybody comes from a different situation, different background, but we need resilience in today's time more than ever. And I talk about this positive leader and his or her character. And this really comes to these three things: growth, grip, and grit. And growth is really about what we talk a lot around, about having the vision for your life and doing the foundations, like being healthy. Then the grip is really kind of managing and navigating our mental game and our emotions, learning to deal and cope with drama, surrounding ourselves with the right peer group. And the last one is really about just taking care of pushing through obstacles and making the dedication and having the strength to persevere. So here you have it. If you just, because now what we would do normally is jump into the workshop, and there we would be able to kind of set ourselves up to succeed, because then I would split you into groups and it would be fun. But as you do this probably at home, again, if you like this, is if it's compelling to you and a little bit inspiring and challenging, good. I want you to maybe do that by yourself or with your sister, brother, or your parents, whoever you can. Maybe everybody will have different stage, different goal for themselves, but just do the next part little step by step. So if you look at the first part, you can see this little human being, and imagine that's you, who's trying to lift off. We are back to the first pillar of this beautiful construction. So you basically are here, you're defining your dream life or your next stage or your goal. And I want you to think like, how can I move or push this define and this little wall that stands between where you are now and where you want to go towards the right side. And how will you push it? You will do it from doing these three things: what makes you fulfilled and what not, and where you live, or perhaps where you want to live, or what. Maybe you could even substitute this question for, how is your environment currently supporting your success? Could be, physically where you live. It could be also the peer group. It could be the tools, the resources, time, money, etc. And then the third one is what kind of work you want to do, job, a goal you want to accomplish, that will get you towards here. So this is what I want you to focus on first. Again, take 2, 3, 5 minutes to complete this and then resume. So I hope you've done that. And now we are finding ourselves in the second part of this equation, which is setting goals. And this can be quite hard because we often, very often, struggle with having too many competing things and interests. I know that from experience, because unclear focus means you don't get the right result. That is why I want you to go to the first kind of page or first exercise and think about the things you actually wanted to accomplish. And then break these down into goals or manageable milestones or supporting pillars. So the first one will be create a general idea, vision, and mission, and perhaps supporting goals. The second will be establish daily habits and schedule them. I know a lot of us are using Outlook or Google Calendar. That I can give you a personal story. I'm sometimes such a geek in these things that I schedule even things like unwind or relax on the weekend, wellness weekend with my spouse. And I did actually this for a while and send her these invites for weekend. And then after a while, she got annoyed and she declined them because she said, "Hey, it keeps popping up on my phone and I really don't like it." But this is what you want to get to, right? You want to be really playing the detail game so that okay, if you set up these short term and long term goals, you know that with these reminders you can get them. And again, you see this little creature, man, woman, human being, tries to actually either get over the goals or try to push those goals, whatever you see, but it's growing in strength and in size. Again, I want you to take 2, 3, 5 minutes, pause the video, and get back to it when you've completed it. Then, when you've done that, we are gonna focus on the third part. You see, the human being is already growing in strength and agility and stamina, and it's because it's more focused on what it can control. And this part will be a lot about your mindset. It will be about your mental game. I want you to think about, what can you control. Don't think about what you cannot control, but think about, okay, I can control when I wake up. I can control when I focus on designing my goals, designing my habits, and what skills, attitudes, or perhaps peer group or reminders I need so that will get me there. I already gave you a hint in the previous slide. You can really set phone reminders. I have it, you know, almost every day when I say, you still got enough time. And I borrowed this from Gary Vaynerchuk, but it's such an amazing feeling when, I feel stressed and then I see this and I'm like, man, you got this. You can play the long game. You can find your way. Then in the second part, I want you to focus on redefining your values because you will need to make some identity shift. Perhaps shift in friendships, shift in mentors, maybe find new angle to tackle that challenge. And for that, you will maybe start seeing yourself, instead of I'm a loser, as an achiever, as a high performer. And you will start doing those little things. And what I want you to tell yourself and to see, really, because science shows, and you know this, sometimes people like myself teach you things that you know, and maybe I know a bit more about it because I've been doing it longer, but it might be just a little bit more than you, and you already believe me and trust me just because I have designed a nice slide for you and I'm telling you some personal stories. But think about that, often, more than not, people actually don't necessarily have to be more smart than you, and it's not a question or a matter of intelligence, but more question of execution and discipline and consistency as a first rule as well. And here in this case, the number C, or third part, I want you to really focus on friendships, making sure you focus on new relationships, and you need to network for that. And you need to network like a tiger. You need to really go out there. You need to be outgoing. You need to be challenging yourself and going out of the comfort zone, because if you want to get a new life, new goal, you really have to take it a step further. So again, take 2 to 3 to 5 minutes to complete this, and then come back when you have done that. All right. So ideally, you have done this previous part, and now you want to really get into the weeds. You want to get into the daily action. And you see, we are growing in strength, we are getting more powerful. And why is that happening? Because we gain momentum. We start again. Remember what brought us here is not working. But what will bring us to the next stage is this daily action. So again, I want you to set this up in a way that you're looking at these goals every day. First, I want you to apply the way of the turtle, as I told you. Also, and I mentioned probably, which I often do, my friend and mentor, Deborah Gemmell, who uses this acronym, Go Slow to Sail Smooth, which, system can help you in this way. And this is very important for us to look at our life from this perspective, to play the long game and to make sure that we actually realize that things will not happen maybe immediately, and we will not immediately have all those answers. But if we take consistent action every day and we look at it, we will have epiphanies. We will, maybe before we go sleep, think about these things a little bit more than if we don't look at it, at all, or just once a month. That's why I'm reinstating this second point as well. Check in with yourself daily, write stuff down. I used to use the 5 minute journal. You can use also, app like Growth Day, or maybe just a physical journal. That first and the third part, I want you guys to commit to improving and reflecting every day. Sometimes, we don't take enough action, but sometimes just reflecting in the evening enough and long enough can be the sufficient propeller for us to take enough action every day. So as you take now 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, I want you to really think about that part. I want you to think about this part. And now, after you've done that, we're going to be moving to the next part. So I hope you have taken, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever you needed. And now is the fun part. And why is that? We need a supportive system. If you want to play the long game, like I said, if you want to really succeed, maybe get to a goal or a next stage that is really hard, we need to find people that we can go along with on this journey. And I found this out a little bit later in my life, but it helped me a lot to understand that things are easier when we actually are surrounded by great people. So again, you were here, and look where you're now. You're now strong, motivated. you're agile, and you're disciplined. And this is, and to a big extent, it happens just because you have found a supportive system. Also, you want to surround yourself with positive learners, so not just people, any people, but people who learn. And this, in the first instance, will help you to, read, to listen to podcasts, to watch things like this. Second, you're already now better at accepting your setbacks, and you know that road ahead, so you're expecting that it will be difficult, but you're pivoting and you're improving. And the third is, you're applying grit and resilience to push forward. And again, this is a little bit, not set in stone. This is ongoing, but I want you now as well to take 2-3 minutes to brainstorm about these three things: what people you need to find, what supportive system you need to have. And maybe you already answered parts of it throughout this presentation, but I hope this will help you, because if you do that, it will help you to get to your dream life. So guys, I want to really thank you for your attention. I want to thank you as well. And if you need any, further support or help, reach out. I'm also writing on different platforms where you can get even more detailed knowledge, or more into this mental kind of effort and attitude, and understand that things actually take a little bit longer, as we as we actually plan. And this is why having the way of the turtle and being positive can really help. So, reach out, please. If you would, recommend this to your friends, maybe 2-3 of your friends, share it with them, share it with your colleagues, and maybe it will be and become a way for you to get to the next stage. And please share notes, share your feedback, and I'm looking forward to see you very soon. Again, thank you for your time and attention. And until the next time, stay awesome and legendary.